January 7th, 1943, New York City. On the 33rd floor of the Hotel New Yorker, in room 3327, a maid named Alice Monahan ignores a sign on a door. The sign has been there for 2 days. It says, "Do not disturb." Inside, she finds an old man in a bed. He was 86 years old. He died sometime in the night, alone, of heart failure. He has no wife, no children, no money. He owes the hotel for the room. His name is Nikola Tesla. The medical examiner finds no signs of struggle. He rules, no suspicious circumstances. He closes the file. That is the official version. 48 hours from now, agents of the United States government will arrive at this room. They will not be there to investigate his death. They will be there to take his papers. They will load 80 trunks onto trucks and seal them under a wartime law meant for foreign enemies. Tesla was a United States citizen. His work will be handed to an MIT engineer named John G. Trump, the uncle of a man who will one day be President of the United States. Trump will declare the papers contain nothing of significant value. Some of the trunks will be returned. 20 of them will not. Some people will tell you Nikola Tesla was murdered. There is no evidence for that, but there is also no evidence for what was in those missing 20 trunks. There is no evidence they still exist. This is the story of the man who imagined the modern world, who lit it with alternating current, who dreamed of free electricity for every human alive, who died in a rented room, feeding pigeons, talking to no one. Nikola Tesla was born in the summer of 1856 in the village of Smiljan, then part of the Austrian Empire. His father, Milutin, served as a Serbian Orthodox priest. His mother, Juka, was illiterate, but known for her uncanny ability to repair or invent household tools from scraps. From the start, Tesla lived between worlds, one shaped by tradition, the other by restless imagination. He was the fourth of 5 children. But childhood in Smiljan was not gentle. At age 5, Tesla watched his older brother Dane die after being thrown from a horse. The family never recovered. Tesla later wrote that Dane's death broke the spirit of our home and that he felt haunted by visions and dreams. Some nights, he saw flashes of light, shapes and images that would not leave him alone. These visions frightened him and comforted him in equal measure. He began to train his mind to control them, learning to conjure detailed images at will. In his memoir, Tesla described this ability as seeing machines as real as those I could build with my hands. His schooling began at the Higher Real Gymnasium in Karlovac. Teachers noticed his memory. He could recite entire books after a single reading. By his teens, he spoke several languages, though records disagree on the exact number. In 1878, the same year Dane's absence grew permanent, Tesla left home for the Technical University of Graz. There, he immersed himself in mathematics and engineering, but also in isolation. He rarely slept more than 2 hours a night and sometimes worked through dawn, obsessed with solving problems others called impossible. He later admitted to walking city streets until exhaustion forced him home. Tesla's mind worked differently. Where others saw obstacles, he saw moving parts. He claimed to visualize every bolt, every gear, every wire of his inventions before ever touching a tool. In a 1904 interview, he explained, "I do not rush into actual work. When I get an idea, I start at once building it up in my imagination. I change the construction, make improvements, and operate the device in my mind. It is absolutely immaterial to me whether I run my turbine in thought or test it in my shop." Personal loss and mental gifts shaped Tesla's earliest years. The trauma of Dane's death sharpened his sense of isolation, but also deepened his drive to create. He would spend the rest of his life chasing visions no one else could see, building machines first in the mind, then in the world. The world he imagined was not yet ready for him, but the world he would help create was already taking shape inside the mind of a boy who saw lightning in his dreams. By the summer of 1884, Nikola Tesla stepped off the boat in New York with 4 cents in his pocket and a letter of introduction to Thomas Edison. The city was a forest of smokestacks and telegraph wires, a place hungry for power, but divided by how to deliver it. Edison ruled with direct current, wiring the city block by block. Tesla walked into Edison's office, handed over his letter, and was hired on the spot to improve the company's direct current generators. Edison promised $50,000 if Tesla could solve the problem. Tesla later recalled confronting Edison about the reward, only to be told, "You don't understand our American humor." The partnership ended in bitterness. Tesla quit after 7 months. Penniless and alone in a city that did not care. He dug ditches to survive, but he kept working, first in rented basements, then in borrowed labs, on a vision no one else could see, a motor powered by alternating current. In 1888, George Westinghouse, the Pittsburgh industrialist, bought Tesla's alternating current patents for $30,000 and a promise of royalties. The deal was simple: 1 cent per horsepower sold. Westinghouse saw what Edison refused to admit: alternating current could travel farther, power entire cities, and change the country's future. For a brief moment, Tesla was at the center of America's electrical revolution. The war between Edison's direct current and Tesla's alternating current spilled into the streets and the press. Edison staged public electrocutions of animals to prove alternating current's danger. He lobbied for the first electric chair, powered by alternating current, as a warning. But the current would not be stopped. In 1893, at the World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago, Westinghouse and Tesla lit up the fairgrounds with 120,000 kilowatts of alternating current. 27 million people saw the future in a blaze of electric light. The press called it a miracle. Tesla called it proof. His vision was real. 3 years later, the Niagara Falls Power Project turned water into electricity, sending 50 megawatts over 20 miles to Buffalo. Tesla's polyphase generators and transformers made it possible. The world's first long-distance power transmission was no longer a theory. It was steel, copper, and light warring out of the mist. Engineers and newspapers credited Tesla by name. For a moment, he was celebrated as the man who harnessed the Niagara. But the triumphs of the 1890s carried a shadow. The royalty deal that once promised wealth became a burden for Westinghouse's struggling company. In a gesture of loyalty, Tesla tore up his contract, giving up a fortune so the alternating current system could survive. The decision would haunt him for the rest of his life. By the turn of the century, Tesla stood at the height of his fame. He had defeated Edison, electrified the World's Fair, and made Niagara Falls a symbol of modern power. He dreamed of sending electricity wirelessly across the globe. But already, the forces that would undo him were gathering: financial doubts, corporate pressures, and the limits of public imagination. The world was moving faster than one man could control. Wardenclyffe Tower began as a promise and ended as a ruin. In 1901, J.P. Morgan agreed to back Nikola Tesla's most audacious dream, a tower on Long Island meant to send messages and electricity wirelessly across the Atlantic. The first check was for $150,000, a fortune by any measure, but not nearly enough for what Tesla envisioned. Morgan believed he was funding a global telegraph. Tesla, in secret, wanted to power the world. Construction started that same year. Crews drove pilings into the sandy soil at Shoreham. By 1902, a wooden frame rose above the trees. Soon replaced by a 187-foot steel skeleton topped with a gleaming copper dome. Tesla called it the magnifying transmitter. He claimed it would send power through the Earth itself. He wrote to Morgan, "When wireless is perfectly applied, the whole Earth will be converted into a huge brain." Costs soared. The deep shaft beneath the tower alone swallowed tens of thousands of dollars. By 1904, Tesla had spent every cent Morgan provided and more. He wrote desperate letters pleading for another advance. Morgan replied with a single cold question: "If anybody can draw the power, where do we put the meter?" The logic of business clashed with the logic of vision. Morgan withdrew. No other financier would risk their money on a dream that threatened the very idea of profit. Work slowed, then stopped. The tower stood unfinished, its copper ball exposed to the weather, its laboratory silent. Tesla owed money to contractors and suppliers. He mortgaged the property, then lost it. In 1917, with the United States at war and rumors swirling about German spies, the government ordered the demolition of the tower. The steel was sold for scrap to pay off Tesla's debts. Wardenclyffe became a memory, a broken promise on the Long Island coast. The failure of Wardenclyffe was more than the collapse of a building. It was the end of Tesla's last best chance to shape the future on his own terms. The world moved ahead, powered by his inventions, but Tesla himself drifted into obscurity. The tower was gone. The vision remained, though, flickering in the minds of those who still believed the world could be remade by a single restless imagination. Tesla's world narrowed to room 3327 on the 33rd floor of the New Yorker Hotel. The city outside pulsed with war and progress, but inside, time moved differently. Every night, he kept to a strict schedule, working until 3 in the morning, filling notebooks with equations and letters by the glow of a single lamp. Hotel staff grew used to the "Do Not Disturb" sign lingering for days. Room service trays collected in the hallway, untouched. The night ledgers recorded his movements, always alone, always at odd hours. His routines became rituals. He counted each step from the elevator to his door. Meals had to be prepared exactly: warm milk, rye bread, celery, honey. The kitchen kept a list just for him. He refused company at meals, and any change unsettled him. Isolation became his constant companion. Yet every morning, Tesla found solace among the pigeons in Bryant Park. He scattered seeds, watched them gather, sometimes whispering to them. In letters he confessed, "I love that pigeon, as a man loves a woman, and she loves me. As long as I had her, there was a purpose in my life." When his favorite white pigeon fell ill, he nursed her in his room. After she died, he wrote, "When that pigeon died, something went out of my life. Up to that time, I knew with certainty that I would complete my work, no matter how ambitious my program. But when she died, I knew my life's work was finished." By the winter of 1943, Tesla rarely left his room. He grew thin, frail, surrounded by trunks of papers and blueprints. On January 5th, he hung a handwritten sign, "Do Not Disturb." For 3 days, no one saw him. On January 7th, Alice Monahan, a maid, entered room 3327. Tesla lay lifeless on his bed. The coroner listed coronary thrombosis as the cause. There was no sign of violence, no evidence of foul play. For a few hours, his room remained silent except for pigeons cooing outside. Then government agents arrived. His trunks and notes were seized. Tesla died alone, with no fortune or family, leaving only pigeons, silence, and unanswered questions. The day after Tesla's death, the machinery of the state moved in. Federal agents arrived at the New Yorker hotel armed with Executive Order 9095, signed by President Roosevelt less than a year before. The text was blunt. The Office of Alien Property Custodian could seize, hold, and dispose of any property considered a threat to national security. Tesla, a U.S. resident but never naturalized, was swept into the category of enemy alien by bureaucratic logic and wartime fear. His trunks, 80 in all, were cataloged, each stamped and numbered, some marked classified. Inside were notebooks, blueprints, letters, and technical drawings, schematics for high-frequency oscillators, correspondence with Westinghouse, diagrams of wireless transmitters, words of vision and effort, now boxed and inventoried under government seal. OPAC agents worked quickly. The hotel night manager watched as trunks were carried from the basement to waiting trucks. Transfer receipts listed each item, including TR-001 for personal effects, TR-03 for laboratory notebooks, and TR-010 for a sealed metal box labeled particle beam schematics. The total weight exceeded 2 tons. Nothing was left to chance. Even Tesla's personal letters and diaries were taken, their fate now tied to the machinery of Washington. Legal clarity was missing. The Department of Justice's own memo admitted the seizure rested on shaky ground. Tesla's citizenship status was ambiguous, but the national defense exception trumped normal inheritance law. No court order was sought. No family member was consulted. The trunks were moved to Manhattan storage, then to Fort Monmouth for inspection by the Signal Corps. A chain of custody began, documented in federal logs, but questions trailed every trunk. The seizure of Tesla's life's work was not a midnight theft or a hidden conspiracy. It was a matter of policy, stamped with the authority of war and carried out in full daylight. 80 trunks left the New Yorker hotel. Their contents would be sifted, sorted, and for some, lost to history. John G. Trump, an MIT engineer and expert in high-frequency technology, entered the sealed government vault in September 1943. Over 3 days, he sifted through Tesla's legacy, 3,500 pages of notes, hundreds of technical drawings, and personal letters bundled in battered folders. Trump's mandate was clear: determine if any of Tesla's ideas posed a threat or promised a weapon. His conclusion, now preserved in the National Archives, was blunt. None of the material represented a practical danger to national security. The designs for wireless power, particle beams, and oscillators were described as fascinating but unworkable with the technology of the time. Trump recommended preservation, not destruction. He wrote that the documents held historical value, but nothing that could change the course of the war. The official report closed the door on rumors of secret death rays or hidden superweapons. There is no credible evidence that Tesla was murdered or that his death was anything but natural. The tragedy lay not in conspiracy, but in the simple loss of a man's life's work to bureaucracy and fear. Yet the story did not end with Trump's verdict. In 1952, after years of legal wrangling led by Tesla's nephew, Sava Kosanovich, a United States court ordered the return of Tesla's possessions. 60 trunks were shipped to Belgrade, where they became the heart of the Nikola Tesla Museum, but the original inventory listed 80. 20 trunks, marked in federal logs, assigned serial numbers, tracked as far as Fort Monmouth, never arrived. Declassified FBI files from 2016 and 2018 confirmed the gap. Some trunks were redirected for further analysis, others simply vanished from the record. No evidence points to theft or secret removal. The fate of those missing trunks remains a documented mystery, a silent gap in the archives. The story of Nikola Tesla closes not with a revelation, but with an unanswered question: how much of his vision was lost and will never be known? The facts are stark. There is no evidence Tesla was murdered, yet the unanswered question remains. Why did a nation that once laughed at his American humor and asked where to put the meter claim his final silence and seize his dreams? In the end, Pigeons kept vigil. The world runs on his visions, but the mystery of those missing trunks endures. Some legacies illuminate, some shadows never lift.